Being an RPG game basically classifies Golden Sun as a long storied game, and boy is this baby a big one. You play as a young boy named Isaac who lives in an old realm in which people called adepts are abundant. Adepts can only control one of 4 elements: earth, wind, fire, and water. You start the game when Isaac and his little town of Vale are under attack from a huge boulder falling from Mount Alpha, a mountain near the town. This essentially is the introduction to the story, because the main quest starts 3 years later. I don't want to ruin much of the adventure, but I can tell you that Isaac and his best friend Garrett have to go on a long goose chase after the 2 evil fire adepts, who have stolen the precious element stones, the source of all alchemy, and save their friend Jenna and teacher Creighton, who have been kidnapped. The story isn't meant to be written on paper, but when played in the game, it's an amazing tale that can take up to 60+ hours to finish. If you want Golden Sun for its story, then you're in luck. The gameplay in Golden Sun is fun, but it lacks in more ways than one. Just like most RPGs, Golden Sun sticks to the tried and true turn-based fighting style. Enemies will randomly attack you as you walk around the world map, or go through the many puzzle-filled areas. Then, back in the 80s, random fighting might have been a cool thing, but I think of it as very distracting and an unneeded addition. The fighting is fun, and can become very interesting with the addition of synergy attacks. Depending on what element each of your party members controls, they will have different synergy attacks. Fire element equals fire synergy, basic. Also, you will collect little elements creatures called Dijini that when stocked up will be able to be summoned in massive attacks. These are great things to use when fighting difficult boss fights, but unfortunately that's about it. Of course, you can customize each character with different weapons and different armor, but it isn't very helpful. You'll find yourself using Synergy and Dijini more than the other weapons. I really wish there was a little more customization options, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Overall, it's cool that you can use the elements to your advantage, and that the strategy is impressive, but it seems like the old RPG random fights, small customization theory brings the gameplay back 2 steps. Besides fighting enemies, there are your occasional areas, or dungeons, that you must pass through to progress through the game. Most of these areas require you to use synergy outside of battle to remove obstacles such as boulders or fallen trees. You can even grow vines to climb up to reach treasure and stuff like that. It's an interesting twist, but to tell you the truth, the areas and puzzles are fairly easy. Too easy, almost. The only difficult parts of the areas are the random fights that pop out of nowhere, and the final bosses. These fights can easily drain your health and synergy level to force you to retreat to the last town, and stock up on weapons and healing tools, and then return back to the beginning of the area all over again. It's a pain in the neck, but on the bright side, the boss battles are very difficult and are actually kind of fun to finish off. It gives you a sense of joy and accomplishment throughout the game, which is nice. If there was ever a really impressive looking Game Boy Advance game, it would be Golden Sun. The world map's 3D look is spectacular for the hardware. The effects from the attacks and awesome summons make it look even better. The only downfall I can really see from this is that there are no real cutscenes. I was hoping for a cool cartoon-like scenes in between the adventure, but the game instead has little text boxes you have to read to understand all of the story, which is a pain in the neck. This is a little disappointing, but it seems to actually work with the system. It kind of brings the game back to the original timeless RPG style, which in this case is great. As amazingly fun the story is to follow, and with a spectacular graphical design, it's sad for me to say that besides the main quest, there's not much left to do. There is an option to go into a gladiator fighting mode, in which you fight old foes and bosses from the story mode, but that is the only extra thing. That being said, Golden Sun is so long that you really should need to care about the setback. This is perhaps one of the best looking, best playable, and best storied games from the Game Boy Advance ever, and possibly one of the top 100 best Nintendo games ever made.
Oh my God.